Chapter 11. Whispers of the Divine. The scent of old parchment and candle wax filled the air as Elowyn and Selene sat hunched over a thick, dust-covered tome. The dim light of the temple library flickered against the towering shelves, casting long shadows over the stone floor. The priests had been reluctant at first, wary of why the princess and her lady-in-waiting sought knowledge of ancient gods and forgotten times, but Elowyn's station had secured their cooperation. Selene turned a page, scanning the text with sharp eyes. "There's barely anything here," she muttered. "Everything about the old gods is either erased or written in riddles." Elowyn exhaled, rubbing her temples. It makes sense. The gods of today wouldn't want their followers remembering those who came before them, especially if one of those gods was sealed away. She flipped through another book, her fingers tracing faded ink. Most of what remained were myths, fragmented tales that had survived the centuries. One passage stood out, and thus the first gods who wove the world fell to slumber, their names lost to time, their power chained by those who came after. But beware, for blood remembers, and through blood the lost may rise again. Elowyn swallowed. Blood remembers. It was as if the very books whispered of the truth she had uncovered. Selene's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "We need more than this." Elowyn nodded. "Then we go higher," and fate, it seemed, had heard her. A summons from the Saintess. That night, as the cold autumn winds howled outside the castle walls, a sealed letter was delivered to the princess's chambers. The emblem on the wax seal was unmistakable, the crest of the High Church of the Empire. Elowyn's heart pounded as she read the words inside. Her Holiness, the Saintess of the Empire, humbly requests an audience with Princess Elowyn at the High Church. The matter is of great importance and discretion is advised. Selene, reading over her shoulder, let out a low whistle. The Saintess herself? She rarely calls on anyone outside the faith. Elowyn pressed the letter to the table, staring at it in contemplation. She must know something, Selene frowned. Or she suspects something. Either way, they couldn't ignore it. While the others search, as Elowyn and Selene prepared for the meeting, the rest of their allies pursued their own paths to uncover the truth. Alastair met with the royal scholars, subtly inquiring about historical records of divine contracts, seeking a way to bind the god without succumbing to it. Elric returned to his old contacts within the knightly orders, searching for any mention of past rulers showing signs of the god's influence. Lyra, ever the cunning mage, delved into forbidden archives, using her arcane prowess to unlock tomes that had been sealed away for centuries. Each of them moved in different circles, yet all were bound to the same purpose. And as midnight drew closer, Elowyn stood before the towering gates of the High Church of the Empire, the moonlight bathing its ancient spires in silver light. She took a deep breath. The Saintess awaited. Chapter 11. Whispers of the Divine continued. The doors of the High Church of the Empire loomed before Elowyn like the gates of fate itself. Their golden inlays shimmered under the glow of sacred lanterns, etched with divine sigils that pulsed faintly with celestial power. A pair of knights clad in ceremonial armour pushed the doors open as she approached, the scent of incense and aged parchment drifting out like a whisper of the past. Inside, the vast hall stretched into infinity, its high ceilings adorned with depictions of gods long worshipped and those long forgotten. At the very end of the hall, past rows of kneeling priests and scholars in quiet prayer, sat a figure unlike any other. Echine Tempus, the last saint of the whole continent, daughter of the King of Elves, the Master of Time. Elowyn had heard of her only in legend, a being untouched by age, her wisdom spanning centuries of conflict, betrayal and divine intervention. She had survived the bestial wars, the war that had once torn the heavens apart when the evil gods waged war against the divine pantheon. Yet here she was, sitting before Elowyn like a porcelain doll, her silver-white hair cascading over her slender shoulders. She was impossibly still, her features flawless yet empty, as if time itself had hollowed her out. Her violet eyes held neither welcome nor disdain, only the weight of eternity. Elowyn hesitated, no warmth, no emotion, just existence. The meeting of fate. Princess Elowyn of the Empire, a priest announced from beside the saintess. Her Holiness Echina Tempest will hear your words. Elowyn swallowed, stepping forward. As she approached, she felt something shift. The air became heavier. A strange sensation, like the very flow of time around her had slowed. No, her breath came slower. Her heart beat louder in her ears. Then Ekin spoke. Her voice was calm, soft, and hauntingly hollow. You bear the blood of the Forgotten One. Elowyn tensed. She knew. The saintess tilted her head slightly as if observing something unseen. A cursed lineage, a soul torn between two fates, a god who whispers to you in your dreams. Elowyn forced herself to stay calm. Then you know why I have come. A long silence. Then Echina stood. The movement was eerily smooth, like the shifting of a shadow rather than a person. The past cannot be undone, Princess, but the future is unwritten. Elowyn's hands clenched into fists. Then help me change it. For the first time, the saintess tilted her chin down ever so slightly, considering her. Why do you seek a contract rather than servitude? Elowyn met her gaze. Because I will not be a pawn in another's game, not even a god's. A faint hum, almost imperceptible. Then the saintess raised her hand. A faint golden light appeared, forming symbols in the air, ancient, unreadable, yet filled with undeniable power. There is only one force that gods fear, Princess. Elowyn's breath caught as she saw the writing take shape, the law of time. Will you wield it? Echina asked, her emotionless gaze never wavering. The weight of the question crushed down upon her. Elowyn had come for knowledge. But she was now being offered something far greater, a power that even gods feared. Chapter 11. Whispers of the Divine. The golden symbols floating in the air pulsed with an ancient radiance, their forms shifting like living constellations. They did not belong to any mortal language, nor even the tongues of gods. They were primordial, older than the heavens themselves. Elowyn stared, her heart pounding. She could feel the weight of them, the sheer power etched into each stroke, the force that had shaped history itself. Echina Tempest lowered her hand, the runes remaining suspended in the air like chains waiting to be clasped around something greater. The law of time, the saintess said, her voice as still as a frozen lake. One of the heavenly chains that bound the old gods and forged the new age. Elowyn swallowed, trying to steady herself. Heavenly chains? Echina turned slightly, gazing upon the great murals that adorned the cathedral walls. Images of the divine war, of gods battling in the sky, of the world nearly torn apart by their conflict. There were once no limits to divine power, Echina said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had witnessed what she spoke of. The gods ruled unchecked, waging war upon one another, destroying entire civilizations in their wake. The bestial wars were only the final battle in an age of endless bloodshed. She raised a delicate hand toward the mural. It depicted a scene of gods being shackled by great golden chains, their divine forms writhing in agony. So the heavenly chains were created, Echina continued, forged by those who wished to bring order to the world, laws that even the gods could not defy. Among them was the law of time, the first and strongest chain. The runes in the air pulsed. Time cannot be undone, time cannot be rewritten, and most importantly, no god can escape time's grasp. Elowyn's breath caught in her throat. This was why the god feared a contract. It wasn't the contract itself, it was the law behind it. A force older than the god itself, something it could not twist or bargain its way out of. Can this law be used to bind the Forgotten One? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Echina's expression did not change. Yes. Hope surged in Elowyn's chest. She had a way forward now, a way to take the power without becoming a vessel for the god's will. But then the saintess spoke again. But it requires a sacrifice. Elowyn felt the cold dread creep back in. What kind of sacrifice? Echina turned to face her fully, her expression still unreadable. The law of time must be bound by one with a pure soul, she said. It requires a willing sacrifice, one who will offer their life to weave the contract into the fabric of reality. Elowyn froze! She thought of the people who had fought for her, Selene, Alastair, Lyra, Elric, Garin, each of them willing to bleed for her cause. And now she had the answer she sought, but at what cost? Akin's violet eyes glowed faintly as she spoke her final words. If you wish to shackle a god, princess, you must first ask yourself, who among you is willing to die for it?